Good morning. Wednesdays with Willa is about to start, and we're going live. And we've got a real treat for you, Day of the Dead. We're going to be talking about, and we have Mandi Shepp here. And our show is just about to start. And so hang in there, everyone. We're just a few seconds from beginning the show. And we'll explain our costuming in just a little bit as well.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. The countdown. And so I just want to say real quickly, if any of you know anything about the Day of the Dead, call in. I'm going to give you the call-in number once the show starts, and we'd love to have you call in.
Mm-hmm. Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Log Talk Radio.
Welcome to Lilydale Radio, featuring topics about spiritualism, mediumship, healing, spirituality, and the Lilydale Assembly, the world's largest center for the religion, philosophy, and science of spiritualism. This is Lilydale Radio.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wednesdays with Willa. This is a Lilydale radio show. My name is Willa White. I'm a registered medium here in Lilydale, and today we'll be discussing the Day of the Dead. I have my special guest here, Mandi Shepp.
Hi.
And Mandi is the library director of the Marion H. Skidmore Library here in Lilydale, and she knows a lot about all kinds of things, including the Day of the Dead. And so we're going to be covering that topic today. And thank you, Denise. For those of you who are following us on Facebook, that's Willa White Medium on Facebook. Or you can listen in on blogtalkradio.com/Lilydale Radio. Find Wednesdays with Willa, and you got us, and you can listen in. So there are 2 ways to listen. And our show today is the Day of the Dead, because it is indeed November 1st. And
Yes.
this is the day that this gets celebrated, and it's important. And Mandy's going to be explaining a little bit about this. I've been interested in this for many years now. In fact, I have a blog I looked it up in 2009. I wrote about the Day of the Dead. And in that, I expressed how I was really interested in if anybody could share a story about the Day of the Dead, and I never heard from anyone. So it was always kind of lingering in my mind to cover that. And when the show date actually fell on this date, and I was able to talk to Mandi, and she knows about it, it all came together. So we are wearing headdresses, and I know Mandy's going to explain why we're doing this too. So if you at all know anything about the Day of the Dead and would like to join in the conversation, you can call in, and the guest call-in number is 818-739-8818. Again, 818-739-8818. So, Mandi, tell us a bit about the Day of the Dead.
So traditionally in Spanish, it is Dia dos
Muertos.
Dia de Muertos. It's traditionally celebrated mostly in central and southern Mexico, because of the variances in indigenous cultures in Mexico. You didn't really have a lot of northern Mexicans celebrating it. It wasn't really a part of their lineage. As we know it today, it coincides with Catholic holidays. It is the Halloween little trifecta.
Yes.
Traditionally, this is a 3-day festival. It starts on Halloween. It carries through the 1st and the 2nd. And then after the festivities, they kind of go back to whatever
But for
they were
them,
doing.
it is a separate thing from Halloween. It's
Yes, they are together in a way. Halloween is a bit different down there as well. It's not quite the same as what we do up here. So it essentially got shifted to this because of colonization from Spain. It's sort of celebrated today as a mixture of Catholicism and their indigenous beliefs. They kind of blend together in this little 3-day festival that they do. Prior to that, this was celebrated at the beginning of August. This actually goes back to...
Can you imagine? Hot and sweltering.
Hot graveyards. So this actually goes back to like the Aztec culture. This is a very ancient holiday as far as indigenous beliefs go, but scholars have found that where the Aztec calendar aligns traditionally, this was in August. And then
neat.
the Catholic influence of, no, we have All Saints Day and All Souls Day, and that's what this day is for. They just kind of shifted it into this and sort of blended the two together into a new holiday as we sort of know it today. So this is basically a celebration of their ancestors that have passed on. They use this as a day to pray for them and kind of support them on their journeys in the afterlife. This is a day for communication. There is a difference between what is celebrated on November 1st and 2nd. Traditionally, the 1st is reserved for communicating with deceased children and infants. November 2nd is more for adults. Halloween is sort of an opener to this, where the children use this time to make altars and invite the spirits to come in and visit.
So it's a purposeful thing that they're doing. You know, when it comes to spirit communication, the idea of actually putting that intention out there. I know we've talked about right practice, right intention, and so they're kind of setting the scene for spirit communication to happen, kind of resonating with it. I know there's certain things that they do to make that happen. The personal effects of a person and things
so
like that.
what they do during this time is they set up these ofrendas, which are altars. They often contain traditional objects, most notably the thing that everyone's familiar with are the calaveras, which are these skull representations. They are often sugar skulls or clay skulls, and this actually goes back to the 1630s as far as tradition. So this is a serious part of things. When you see these at the meat markets, sometimes if you have like a Mexican grocery near you, you can find these. These smaller skulls are meant for children, the larger skulls are meant for adults, and there's usually a blank space on the forehead, which is meant to write the name of the deceased as like this is for you.
How do they write that? Do they write that in sugar too?
Like an icing, or they can
icing?
write it in pen, or there's a number of ways you can kind of delineate that this is for this person.
Is that something they would buy in a candy store or in a bakery?
You can buy it at a traditional market. Some like if they have like an open air market or even like a farmer's market, there will be someone that has made these and is selling them.
I want to say part of Mandy's background is that you lived in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And so you saw this firsthand of the people who were celebrating the Day of the Dead there.
Yeah. In Los Angeles, there is this district, Oliveras Street, and that is this very large Mexican market that has a lot of traditional things. That is where our delightful decorations in the background came from. And there are just these little shops that sell nothing but sugar skulls and nothing but material for ofrendas and Day of the Dead stuff.
Wow.
So it is a big serious thing, and on that day, like, everything just shuts down because they are all at the cemeteries. So that is kind of neat. Sometimes the deceased are shown as skeletons. You can actually get like a full body representation of these people. So there are little things like this. So this, let me up to the camera. So this is a little clay figurine of a Katrina. This is a sort of a lot of these skeletal representations are often used with political implications. So this is sort of a way to like poke fun at status. She has a long dress. She has a hat that had a very large feather in it until it fell off. But imagination. So this is meant to like kind of poke fun at the wealthy and at the deceased and at the disparity in social classes. And then there is another one as well that is sort of doing the similar thing with her little wrap and little skirt there. So these are little representations, and then as a more serious, less pokey funny one, this is a representation of a family. They are doing their little festivities. They are celebrating at the grave and decorating it and cleaning it. And that is just a little representation of what these can be. They can be very large. They can be very small. It all depends on you. This is really a time for personal expression and creativity towards the deceased as a way of remembering them and commemorating them.
So they can purchase these little figurine things, or they can make their own
Mm-hmm.
and decorate them. And do they make new every year, or do they keep the ones year to year?
It kind of depends. If some people can join it, like if say one person made one for like an aunt, then maybe the aunt's sister will make one, and then there will be a collection of them from the people who are remembering who they are. I've seen these in like full-bodied, like little cardboard skeletons and cool things. They're often very brightly colored. Some people make masks and write the name of the deceased on the forehead, like the sugar skulls, and that's a way of remembering them as well. So they also can make a calaveras poetry. There are literary calaveras that are poetry eulogizing the deceased. These are often humorous. These are a way of kind of like roasting like the dead. Is like, you remember that time we got real drunk on tequila and did this terrible thing? Like, stuff like that is a way of like bringing them back to life again.
Sure.
So other things that you will find on these altars are Aztec marigolds. Aztec marigolds are the traditional flower of Day of the Dead. Marigolds are thought to call spirits in their culture. But often large, colorful flowers are in as well. They are ways of aligning yourself spiritually with these people and opening yourself for communication.
Flower power.
Quite. So they also are known to leave offerings as far as food or beverages, often alcoholic beverages.
Cervezas.
Tequilas and pulques and all those hardcore things. Also, there is a special pan de los muertos. It is a bread of the dead. It's often like a big sticky bun shaped thing. It's kind of sweet, buttery, very dense. Tastes sort of like a challah bread. Sometimes these can be baked into shapes like little skulls or rabbits, and they're frosted with icing in the shape of little bones. So they're like little skeleton breads.
They get very artistic.
They're adorable. So essentially what they do is they leave these foods on the altars, and then afterwards, after the festival is all done, they consume the food and not leave waste and things like that.
And does spirit eat?
Yes. So they believe that the food after the festival has no more nutritional value because the spirit has eaten the spiritual essence of the food. So this is just like the shell of the food that they left.
Well, in Native American cultures, frequently they'll have a plate, whenever they get together for gatherings, they'll have a plate for spirit. And they'll fill it with a bite of every food that's represented. And let's say it's a potluck or something, they make sure they have a bite there for spirit to eat the essence of the food. It's kind of a continuation on that, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it's sort of in the line of, pouring out some alcohol for your deceased friends and stuff. All of that good stuff.
Well, I know as a medium in spirit communication, sometimes with clairgustance, with the tasting of things, they'll bring in a food that was important to them, or even a favorite food that they used to make for the client, and I'll taste it. And sometimes those in spirit really craved certain kinds of foods, and they miss the sensual tasting quality that food gave them, because they can't have that experience per se, and the next plane, it's not really a necessary ingredient in their life. So I think that they enjoy being a part of that again.
Oh yeah, I think
The
so.
physicality. There's something to be said for this physical plane of existence. Absolutely. The pleasures.
Oh yeah. To further personalize it as well, they will also leave the belongings or their possessions in order to kind of, if they had like a favorite hat or something, they'll leave that so they can remember what it's like to wear it again.
Aww. And so to their minds, that they're celebrating this and they're leaving that hat, is it possible that they then feel spirit is going to put that hat back on again? And
it is very much a physical thing. Some people will leave out like pillows and blankets at the gravesite so that the dead can rest after their journey back to the grave.
aww.
So it is very much a physical, like it is a very much like that person is here with you again. And that is like the beautiful part of this.
And that's the celebration. That's why they have a celebration with this. And, you know, artifacts like that frequently have the energy of a person on them still.
Oh,
and
yeah.
as, you know, as mediums, we call that psychometry, reading the energy around an object. And so if you can attune yourself to that particular vibrational frequency, you can have communication. I like to call it tuning yourself to the right radio station. So if you raise your vibration, and celebrations, dance, music, those kind of prayers are all going to lend themselves to raising the vibration for spirit communication to happen. So if you find the right radio station, they're kind of lowering theirs because they don't have dense physical material. We're raising ours, and then we meet in the middle and we have that conversation. Shh, hello, how are you? And so, do people talk about their conversations? Do they share what they talk about with their loved ones?
It is very much an interactive experience. They will have conversations and just kind of give messages and prayers and kind of updates like, hey, I got that job, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like a day to catch up. And,
But do they feel the response back? Do some of them report?
I think so.
Do they say, Grandma, talk to me, and blah, blah, blah?
The ultimatum or the ultimate experience is that they are very much there with you. It is very much a physical presence. That's why you're having this picnic. That's why you have a party at their gravesite, because you're celebrating them with them. It's like having a birthday party again. It's very much a celebration of who this person was and what they did and what they were like and how much fun it was to be around them and how much they meant to you.
Right. Aw. That's lovely.
I have one personal experience with this. I was in a relationship with a guy who was, his family was Central Mexican. And we went to his grandfather's grave one year to introduce him to his girlfriend. So it is very much a thing.
Yes.
It is a very personal. It is a very you are involved kind of deal, and they want to make sure that like the dead are aware of this and that they're aware of this attempt at communication. They will often make noise at the graves. Some people wear clothes with bells or shells on them to kind of dance around and make noise, and they will make little noisemakers like this.
Oh my goodness.
This is a skull-shaped rattle. If you notice, there is a Catholic cross on it, but there is also a space on the forehead where if you were intended to use this to call a particular person, you could fill in the name on their forehead, and this would be for talking with them.
Wow.
Or calling attention to them, or letting them know that you are thinking of them, something of that effect.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So it's definitely a different form of communication, but
Very
it's certainly very communicative. Also, one of the decorations, as I mentioned, this paper behind us, this is papel picado. So these are little...
Say that a couple times. Yes.
So these are little cut out, very thin tissue paper flags. They put these out at a lot of their festivals. They're different ones for Christmas, different ones for more traditional day, like Independence Day, things like that. These are a Day of the Dead one, and they have little skulls and scenes cut out from them, and you can see some of the traditional symbology.
And there's the Catholic cross represented.
Yep. And then that one up there is a Caterina with the hat and the feather. So she is
neat.
basically the symbol of the holiday unofficially. So it's a neat thing. So yeah, essentially the big thing of this holiday is that death is a celebration, and you should be using this as an opportunity for remembrance. You should be using this as celebration, and you should really be grateful for the time you have with people.
Yes.
I find this to be a really beautiful holiday, and I think it's neat that there are different cultural interpretations of this around the world as well. You can see versions of this celebrated in India. You can see versions of this celebrated in Asian cultures. There is this overarching theme of ancestral communication, and that has really been something that has gone on since the beginning of our cultures, really.
Right. Well, I know in China that's especially important, knowing their ancestors, and they know that they still have communication with them, and that they are guardians for them and their family. Mm-hmm. And so it's nice to be able to call back into that family and connect with them more fully. And even if you didn't know them in their lifetime, you can get to know them better. Mm-hmm. So there becomes this communication that's ongoing. Not every day, but as needed, there can be communication that occurs. That's what is so fascinating to me about this level of spirit communication that they're doing. For those of you who want to call in, if you've had experience at the Day of the Dead and would like to share in the conversation, you're welcome to call in. It's 818-739-8818. Again, 818-739-8818. Perhaps you could tell them a bit about the headdresses and the costuming that people wear.
So some people, the face paint that is seen colloquially now, some people, in addition to their forms of communication, a further form of communication is to dress up as the departed. So they will just kind of dress up as this deceased version of their loved one, complete with the skull makeup and things like that, and the flowers in the hair, as a form of sort of aligning themselves with this person and celebrating who they are, and serving as a physical representation of this person for the people who are celebrating the departed.
Sure.
But also as a way of remembering them and giving more personality to their quirks and personas and things like that. Mm-hmm. It's a way to make it a lot more individualistic, because really what you're doing is celebrating the individual. You are celebrating this entire little journey that we are all on together.
Yes.
But it's a very, though it does have a lot of Catholic influence, like if they are, like you see the Catholic symbology on the tissue paper, you see some of the Catholic symbologies in these.
And the figures, yes.
Yeah, most of the home ofrendas will have a lot more Catholic symbology in them. Mm-hmm. So they'll build these little altars in their home as well as the graveyards, but they will have a lot more, like a crucifix or a cross. There will be rosary beads. There will be a Catholic style prayer.
Will they have a picture of their loved one?
Usually they will have a picture of the loved one and also a picture of the Virgin of Guadalupe or or a saint or something like that would be seen as aligned with this spirit of the deceased.
People frequently do this anyway, having an altar or having a special place that they feel connection with their loved one, a picture and some things that were important to that individual. Frequently people in their meditation rooms will tell me that they have this set up and it's easy for them to then have the spirit communication. And so that's something they could do year round.
Oh yeah.
But it's do they, outside of this festival, this celebration, do they do spirit communication, or is it reserved for these days only?
It's reserved as this day. You're basically seen as it's the afterlife. You have your own things to do. So does the deceased.
Right.
So they have their own life now.
True.
They're doing other things. They got their other stuff going on. They can't come do beck and call constantly.
No.
That's not how this works.
Exactly. It's not how it works anyway.
So you're also acknowledging their independence and their individuality in the afterlife by allowing them to kind of be free and do who they want to do and be themselves, while still developing spiritually, and then you can kind of communicate and update each other and get a feel for what's been going on, and just sort of enjoy this time that you have with that person, because it's precious now.
Yes. And in fact, it's one of the reasons why I have a waiting policy for my clients, that they wait at least 6 months before scheduling with me again, because I want it to be an empowering communication rather than something that they become addicted to. So I kind of like that they do that only once a year.
It's a healthy policy.
Yes, because people need to be living their lives, And while we can connect with our loved ones in spirit, it can't be on a 24/7 basis or even 365.
Oh, I saw that episode of My Strange Addiction. I know.
Oh. and so when they paint the face and they do that, then there's a lot of revelry as a group. I think I've seen images where they're going through the streets.
Yeah, it's a lot of there's basically the entire cemetery is this lit up, beautiful, neat place. There's a lot of people having picnics and drinking and celebrating and just sort of like loving life.
And that's all night long then, or is it?
It is
just...
like 3 days. Some people sleep there, and that is just what their weekend is, or what these 3 days are. Is Halloween. We start building the altar, and then this day is the first day, and then the second, and then November 2nd is sort of the whoop it up, go crazy day. And it's...
Well, that's the communication with the adults day, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's
so that is like, all right, family picnic! Like, you can be a little bit more loose and fun with
Whereas
what you're
the
doing.
one day is, with the children, a bit more purist, probably.
Yeah, a little bit more prayer and reverence and
Yes.
and seriousness. And
Well,
then...
this is so different from Halloween. The celebration of the Day of the Dead has, while there's fun to it, and spirit communication is fun. It's sacred and fun. I like that they make it both. And it kind of goes against the spooky, even though there's skulls and skeletons and things like that.
Well,
I think it's helping them to not be afraid of the dead and not be afraid of dying.
Yes, it's this very celebratory thing.
It's not gory.
Though there are some sort of morbid physical
are?
facsimiles in terms of the skeletons and things
Right.
like that.
Okay.
You are putting this like very physical, serious, tangible reminder of your own mortality
Yes.
into this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like even the graveyards, like it's not quite the same as it is here. So when you see deeper Mexican graveyards and you see like especially the island cultures as well,
Yes.
you start to see this. You see a lot of things like this, where you see this grave is bright orange and this one is bright yellow.
Yes.
They are painted these bright, celebratory, like neon colors.
They're not gray stone.
No, it is not stone. It is, well, if there is stone, it is usually painted with like some fabulous turquoise or wonderful purple or bright orange, and it's a very festive, very bright. Like it looks like it's a small world, but it's a graveyard. It's weird, but it's really awesome and it's very beautiful. And
it's not a scary place.
No,
it's not
it
considered a scary
definitely
place for
emphasizes that you should not be afraid of going there.
Right. It's not about Halloween, werewolves, and vampires and things like that. It's about talking to your loved ones.
Yeah, it's about this is a place for celebration. This is a place for reunion. This is a place for enjoying your time with these people that you miss and that you love, and they still love you, and they miss you too.
Yes. And there's a whole lot of hope and encouragement that comes out of that. So know that life continues on. There's a continuity of life. That they're not separated necessarily by so-called death. And I think that's a beautiful aspect to the celebration of the Day of the Dead. It really sounds like it's a beautiful representation overall of things.
It definitely is, and it's a really like it's a cool little family reunion in a weird, spooky kind of way. But it's nice to see that this is a really primal thing.
Yeah.
And that this really goes across cultures and across history. Like a lot of European cultures and Slavic cultures do stuff like this as well, coinciding with the Catholic
Right,
thing.
the All Souls Day, All Saints Day.
Basically with Catholic expansion and colonization, it was just sort of, okay, I see you all do this. This is the day we do that now.
Right.
So the regulation of that stuff kind of shifted the day that this is practiced, but what's common is that they all have this element of celebrating their dead and having these reverences and being close to their families again.
So it's not necessarily associated with a particular religion, then. It's associated with a culture.
Historically, it is pagan.
Okay.
Historically, this is a very pagan ritual that goes back to Stonehenge.
Mm-hmm.
But other cultures have all sort of kind of grasped on this concept throughout history and time and geography. It's a very I feel like the need to communicate with your passed on loved ones is just something that is innate in every human being.
Absolutely. That's why we don't just adhere to the idea of modern spiritualism starting in 1848. There's ancient spiritualism.
Well,
There's
that's why
been
it's
spirit
modern.
contact. Yeah, I know. And sometimes modern people get with the program.
It was
and
modern
things.
Victorians and their phrenology.
Absolutely. Now, for those who celebrate the Day of the Dead, they like it when other people start, or do they have the sense of it's mine, it's my way of celebrating and communicating with spirit, and I really don't want other people involved.
See,
Because in my reading and research, I every now and then would run across that, like, oh, they're doing the face paint wrong, or they're doing, why are they dressing up with this?
That's all a matter
know what I'm
of,
trying to say.
of cultural appropriation and all
Yes.
that good stuff.
Right.
But as far as, as long as you're not doing this as the Halloween costume and all that good stuff, and you understand what it means.
Yes.
I think co-opting some of these traditions, within reason,
Yes.
could be beneficial, especially if it's something that you identify with, and if it's something that helps you and your spiritual journey and your development and your grief and your way of connecting and moving on towards the loss of someone you love.
Right.
I don't really see the harm in it, me personally.
Now, what about
I-
cremation? Do they don't do cremation?
Catholics don't do cremation.
Well, but they're not just Catholics that are celebrating the Day of the Dead, right?
Well, that's the thing. Modern Mexico is largely Catholic.
Okay.
It's a very heavy Catholic country now because of the Spaniards and because of what happened with their...
But they're not the only religious group that celebrates the Day of the Dead, because it's a cultural thing.
Yes, but like I was saying, the modern infusion of this is indigenous beliefs at the
Right.
core, and then it's sort of given this Catholic structure as you do it over these 3 days in a festival form.
So you need to have a coffin and a body and a grave to do this?
Yes. You can, if someone has been murdered or lost at sea, that's sort of like
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah,
what
that's
they
sort
do.
of the purpose of the ofrenda is you have a place to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they don't have a grave, then you can build one in your home and still celebrate them and their essence and everything about them in your home. And sometimes if it's a tragic situation like that where
Right.
you don't have a body,
Right.
you will probably not be as jovial in your celebration of your loved one. You will probably do it at home and be a lot more serious and reverent about what you are doing and how you are celebrating. It has a different tone. Like I said, this is very individualistic. It's very dependent on who died and how and what
Sure.
happened. It's very different if you are celebrating the lovable old dirty joke making grandpa versus a child that was taken way too young,
Yeah.
and something horrible happened.
Right.
So it's a very different. You're not gonna remember that time Pete fell down this. No, you're not gonna do that to a child that no.
Oh, dear.
So
Oh,
it's
dear.
it's a very different way of celebrating, and it does become extremely individualized.
Now, you were witness to these things in LA and California, and they have a strong, population like that. And it was normal for them to go to the cemeteries and do that. What about in our area? Is that something? I mean, it's cold here, people.
Yeah.
It is. This has been a cold
It's a bit
Halloween.
of a chilly day for a picnic.
But on the nice.
I believe around here it's usually a bit more home thing.
Okay.
I'm not sure how.
'Cause,
I know a lot of the cemeteries around here are very blended, and some of the Catholic cemeteries are very, very Polish and Italian heavy, and I'm not.
I just wondered if there was
I know if my
anything.
little old Polish grandmother saw this happening in a graveyard, she would call me immediately. What were they doing?
But she wouldn't equate this a little bit with All Souls or All Saints Day then? She wouldn't
Probably, but
say,
she
hey,
would,
that's kind of okay?
she would realize that it's some sort of thing for this, but I don't think she would approve of
Look
the,
at them
the
whooping it up,
lighthearted
right?
nature of this. No, this is serious. Someone died. So, yeah, it's differences in culture and how we
Sure.
were raised. It's a lot more.
So it's not really East Coast at this point.
It's in America. It is celebrated differently depending on where you are,
Sure.
and also the
weather.
percentage of your populations and stuff like that.
Yeah,
If you have a very Mexican heavy area, it's going to be different.
Right.
We have a not exactly heavy amount around here, I would say. So I would assume that the ones around here are going to be a little bit more private in their homes.
Sure. And then they can, but it's a celebration they can do there then.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like those kind of vigils are something that they really enjoy doing overall, and that they really understand that spirit communication is behind it.
Oh yeah, like a lot of these people, this is something that you prepare for months.
Months.
Like this is like a big deal culturally.
Wow.
So it is a thing that.
And so they say, hey, we're going to talk to grandma. Hey, we're going to talk to mom. Hey, we're going to.
Yep, like get all your stuff together, make sure you have everything you want to say, and don't forget things.
Do they write things down in advance?
Sometimes you can,
that?
like especially if you're making like a poem or a eulogy kind of humorous poem about somebody, that's going to be like a material that you work on and hone, like a comedy routine or like a performance that you are doing.
Do people clap then?
Oh yeah, it is. You are expected to laugh because these things are usually quite funny. It is usually not usually the most heartwarming or noble things. Sometimes it is, depending on the family. If you have a super fun, very lighthearted family that's big into humor and joking, yeah, it can
Depends on the family.
It can be pretty great.
Personality is a big part of spirit communication. I know as a medium, I focus on bringing the essence of a spirit through. What they were like when they were here, things that they may have had physically, how they felt about the client, how they feel about other people. And I feel that that's a really important way to bring someone through, because if they come through as beings of light, you're not necessarily going to recognize them. You'll be like, no, that's not my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. He was,
Yeah.
otherwise. And so it's important that they are represented in that way, in that kind of real human way.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's this concentration on their flaws is not necessarily a bad thing. It's something that represents them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The imperfections of life.
Oh yeah, and that's
The funny stuff.
And that's what it is it's celebration of us as humans and
Yes.
our culture and our spiritual journey and what awaits for us afterwards, and really ultimately the reassurance that like it's not done
Right.
after this try, that you can still have this connection even if it's fleeting with the people that you love and the people that you miss, and it's.
I was talking about doing this show, and my older son said, oh, hey, Mom, is that like the movie we saw, The Book of the Dead? Have you seen that?
It's adorable.
It's an adorable children's animated film. And, so they're painted up in that way. And it's, so he knew it in that way. And he was really fascinated that we were doing this show today because of it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I know it's a thing that's kind of come into popular awareness, and
Yeah.
it's getting interpreted. Like I know Pixar is doing Coco, which is about Day of the Dead, and
Is that coming out soon? Or?
Yeah, I believe it's this month.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm going to watch it.
Of course you are. Of course she is, folks.
But yeah, it's supposed to take it as far as from the side of the dead and what it's like afterwards, and that this day is also a big deal for them too, because it's their day to connect with us.
Absolutely.
So it's Yeah, I think
And so they're looking forward to it on their side of the fence as well.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
the understanding, is that they're excited to see you too. And that is the fun part of this, and that is honestly the most touching part of this.
Well, sometimes people in advance of a reading will say, well, is there anything I can do? And I say, well, I do have suggestions for readings posted on my website, but one of the best things you could do is say, hey, you guys, I've got an appointment, show up. Like, that seems to really work well. And it's those in spirit, they're interested in what we do. You don't stop caring about them just because you're dead, in quotes. Love never dies, and they still have interest. Just like, that boyfriend was wanting to introduce you to his grandfather.
Yeah, because they still want updates from what's going on here.
Hey, what do you think of her, grandpa?
Yeah.
And there is that sense of approval that we sometimes want from our loved ones in spirit, and it's an interesting way of them doing spirit communication.
Yeah, it's nice that it's just a very simple, let's be a family again, and that you don't have to have all these rituals and this specific thing.
Right.
Like, I know with pagan stuff it was considerably more ritualistic.
Yes.
Yes. Like, that's possibly one of the purposes of the Stonehenge. It's a burial ground, and they were there for a annual gathering to celebrate their ancestors, and this was like 4,000 people, which is insane. As just this huge group of like, I remember my family.
Yes.
But it was a lot more ritualized. There was a lot more process involved and a lot more stuff. And this is a nice way to have this cool element of spirit communication and have it be casual and have it be personal and not have this big looming pressure on it to like do it correctly. Real anger them. Or
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you can. It sounds like you can speak ill of the dead.
Yeah, not even ill. Like, I mean,
In fun,
it's the culture of like,
razzing them.
if you can't make fun of someone, I mean.
So it's a wonderful observance of a holiday in many ways.
I think so. I think it's a bit more lighthearted than traditional Catholic celebrations of let's be serious all day.
Well, part of the things I've noticed over the years, and here at Lilydale, we talk about raising the vibration and how that important that is. And a person who's in a joyful, centered place is more likely to have wonderful spirit communication than someone who's in a depressed space, who's angry, maybe has what I call the Porcupine Fortress aura going on. That's, somebody could be knocking on the door, ringing the doorbell, and you're not going to hear them. But if you're in a joyful center place, being in that sense of celebration, a lot of the elements of raising vibration, candles, music, prayer, laughter. Some people use bubbles, probably not for this, but it depends on what kind of joy you're wanting to bring in.
Oh yeah, and that's why you have the noisemakers, and you wear flowers that call them, and there's incense, and it's all of these. You're sort of giving them the bat signal in the sky. Of, hey, we're over here, guys. Come on,
down.
It'll be so fun.
We'll bring in land your airplane here.
Exactly.
That's lovely. Well, I know we just have a few minutes left for our show today, but and I'm seeing on Facebook people are saying, "Wonderful show! I'm glad you're enjoying the information about the Day of the Dead." I want to say real quickly that the next show is going to be, of course, Wednesday, November 8th, and 10 a.m. and same channel, same time. And my special guest will be Shirley Calkins. She's a registered Lilydale medium, and our topic will be angels. Shirley is excellent at talking about angels. So I hope that you can tune in next week. We have other shows that are part of the Lilydale radio. And so on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock, we have Colleen Vanderzijden doing Embracing Your Essence. Wednesdays mornings with me, of course. And 8 p.m. we have John White, who's doing Journey of Light. On Friday mornings at 10 a.m. we have Celeste Elliott doing Celestial Fridays. So there are a lot of opportunities to tune in to Lilydale. And I know we're going to have Mandi on for other library things. We got to get it on the schedule here. But
90 seconds.
oh, see, time goes so fast.
I know.
But it was really, really fascinating to talk about the Day of the Dead and
Yeah,
have somebody to talk about that with.
It's a beautiful holiday, and honestly, like, if there's a way that makes you happy to communicate with someone that you've lost, I see no harm in doing the thing and saying, hey, just be casual about it. It
Just
doesn't
be
have to be
casual.
a scary, formal thing.
No, it does not.
They want to hear from you, too.
Yes, yes. And, I know
60 seconds.
in my reading about this, people will say, I have a moment of silence, and then in my head I talk to her, his mother in this instance, and I see how she's doing too. So there's a give and take in that communication, and that's a big part of what we do here in Lilydale. That we really want to honor what Spirit is telling us as much as we want to honor the client or the person we're giving the message to. So that everybody is given the airtime that they need for that conversation to take place.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's nice that in this 2 to 3 day event that's happening for people's departed loved ones.
Yep. I know I'm going to go home and celebrate.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Seconds.
Well, I know our show is winding down. I really thank you for coming on the show today, Mandy.
Thank you for having me.
It's been
Anytime. I'm happy to
wonderful.
talk about
And you
fun
brought
history
props.
stuff.
Props for the props. Seriously, it's really wonderful to have you here and to know that we have such a wealth of information in our library, but also in our librarian.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. We're gonna wind down the show and put this on. Have a good day, everyone, on the radio show.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in on Facebook Live, everyone. We'll see you next week. Have a wonderful, fantabulous Day of the Dead. And know that spirit communication is something that you can truly have and embrace in a sacred and fun way. All right, everyone. Thanks and goodbye.
Now go celebrate your loved ones.
Dia de los Muertos.